I pride myself in punctuality, but when my computer does not want to cooperate and pick up my trusty, tried and true Yeti microphone, I can't let the festivities begin without making sure that that is set up because I'd like proper sense. So thank you so much for your patience. It is 7:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, October 18th, 2022, and you have joined Effluvium for the fifth episode. And for this episode, we will be joined by one of my panelists. He will be a regular panelist. This will be his first time appearing. His name is Adam Forziati. He is an editor and writer for Fragrantica and an aspiring perfumer himself. And in addition, I will have Anooj of Enchante Perfumes and our special guest, Eugen, You Smells Good of Les Abstraits, and they will be joining us shortly. Hello, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time of the day it is in your corner of the globe. Hi, Dave. Thank you for stopping by. Hello, Antonio. Hello, Alfonso. Let's go indeed. Let's get this party started. Hi, Pep. And hello, Adrian. And yeah, as long as you're listening in as if it were a podcast, that's fine with me. Thank you so much. And it looks like we have 23 people so far tuned in. Wonderful. Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for your support and coming back and tuning in. Maginosis YouTube. I'm doing very well, thank you. I hope that you're doing dandy as well. Hello, Mike V. And scent of the day, Eugene. Hey, share your scent of the day. Hello. Thank you very much. Ooh, I was supposed to share somebody else's comment here. They're starting to come on in. Welcome. Thank you so much. Hello. Hello, Rudy. And that's fine, even if you can just listen without even watching. It's sort of like a podcast where you can look at our mugs if you want to. Hi there. Hello. Great to see you. Hi there, Alex. And hello, Lily. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope that I got everybody here. I do. I think that I do so far. Hello. Ooh, Cherry Pop by Freighter. No idea. But Niall, thank you for coming and listening and watching and/or watching. Very nice. Very nice. Les Indemnisables. Les Indemnisables. Les Indemnisables. Yes, wonderful stuff. Well, I think I'm going to start things up. Ooh, this is very nice. The Astray. Beautiful. Ambre by Parfum d'Empire. Wonderful stuff. I just recently picked up the 2022 bottle of Tabac Tabou, and let me say it is a great vintage. This year's Tabac Tabou is fantastic. And Halston Z14, such a classic, such an oldie but goodie. Papillon Dryad, and then Florissa Rose 4. Ooh, so, okay, earlier that I had two as well. I started off this morning with the Haute Noir by Bulgari, and then in the afternoon, I had put on some Comme des Garçons Blancs. Hello, Jonathan. Thank you for coming and listening or watching, or both. Josie, hey, what's going on? Very nice. Rokabar, wonderful, wonderful. I have a big love for Rokabar. Oh, thank you. You're a charmer. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Hugo Boss #1, excellent. Yes, good. Well, early morning for you. Okay. All right. And Romeo Gigli Peromo. Ooh, that's some hard to find stuff now, but I have a sample of that courtesy of one of our guests for this episode of News. He provided me with a sample of that, and that's some great stuff. Ah, okay. I'd like to get into some New Zealand brands. I'd love to visit New Zealand. Oh, hell, I'd like to move to New Zealand. Forget about it. I hope to visit New Zealand in the near future. That would be a real thrill. All right, so now that we have 36 people on at the moment, I am going to start off with a trivia question. And the first person that I see who has the answer to this trivia question may very well have a treat coming their way. Haven't decided yet what that will be, but hey, this is something I decided upon off the cuff, and we'll get this started. So, the question for this week is, what of the three botanical materials does not have a musk molecule in it? Now, this is a fragrant molecule that is a musk molecule. So in chemistry, that's a very specific type of molecule. And many animals who have certain scented materials carry musk molecules. The deer musk, castoreum, muskrats, various other animals that have certain exudates to attract or repel. But out of these three plants, which one of these three do not have a musk molecule? So the plants to choose from are ambrette, cumin, angelica. Out of those three, ambrette, cumin, angelica, which one of those three does not have a musk molecule? Let's see if we can get some answers coming in. Ah, not an answer, but I'm really amused by that response. Okay, okay, all right. Gonna let some more answers come through here before I announce who got the answer correct first. Keep them coming, keep them coming. Give it about another 30 seconds or so for some more answers to come in. Okay. All right. So the answer is cumin. While cumin does seem somewhat musky, body odor like, perspiration like, it actually does not have a musk molecule. However, ambrette does. There is something called a bretolide, which is found naturally in ambrette. It's one of the few botanical species that has a musk molecule. And the other, Latin name are Angelica archangelica. The root has exaltolide as a natural musk component. So the answer for which one does not is cumin. And yes, Lily, you did get it right, but it was Paroli. Paroli was the first one to get the answer correct. Paroli, be sure to reach out to me. Not sure if you have me or you're connected with me on Instagram. Forgive me if I don't remember, but reach out to me and we'll make an arrangement to send you a special goodie bag of some type with samples and all kinds of good stuff. So reach out. Congratulations. All right, next, what we will be doing is the first impression. So last week was, the whole theme was first impressions, but what we're going to do is we're going to return to the theme of doing three first impressions to start off the stream. So I have three of them here. And the three that I'm going to be sampling are Unum, Ennui Noir. This was a recommendation from Duncan. Not sure if Duncan is tuned in at the moment, but he recommended this to me. Did not take any notes. I just wrote the name down. The only thing that I remember is it has a heliotrope note. That is the first one. Second one, Liquide Imaginaire, Desert Suave. Now, I'm not even sure if this one was recommended to me or if I just put it down as a to sample, but it's the second one. Don't even remember what the notes are. And then third, Histoire de Parfum, 1828. And what I do recall is this has nutmeg note. And give me 1 second. I'm going to just explain why I chose to sample this. I'm going to retrieve a book. It will be literally 10 seconds because the book's right behind me. All right. Hopefully I didn't lose a few. Oh, I gained a few people from that. Pardon me, I'm still getting over cold. Last Tuesday, I was in such, pardon me, I should really put myself on mute. I was in really rough shape. I was in the throes of a really serious cold. So I thank anybody for bearing with me. I was not in my usual shape when I had Pep with us and Brian. So I have 2 books here. I'm just trying to determine which one. Perfumes the Guide. This version is the 2018 version. I'm not sure if it's this one. It might not be because I don't think this particular scent actually came out in 2018. I think it might actually be this one, Perfumes the A to Z Guide. So what I'm going to do, the reason why I thought to myself, well, maybe I should try this is because, hey, I value Luca Turin's opinion to a degree, even though sometimes I vehemently disagree with some of his opinions. However, he had some glowing words for 1828. He subtitles it as a nutmeg wood, and he gives it 4 stars, saying that HDP's 1828 achieved something I have never thought would happen. It retroactively makes me appreciate Cacharel Poron, or Porlon, which I do enjoy a great deal, primarily for that really prominent nutmeg note. I now see that the nutmeg accord that made it so memorably unpleasant was not wrong, just badly executed. So he's actually arguing that 1828 improves upon that. So he goes on to say 1828 sets the record straight with excellent raw materials and achieves a direct, effortless, virile fragrance. And that's why I decided that I should give it a whirl. It's the reason why I already have, I think it's 1876 Matahari. I gave a glowing review of that. I have that one. And I have the usual suspects, one of which I can't, these are not, I can't remember names that are just the names of, I actually end up remembering the names of the historical figures more than the years that they represent. But I have, the Marquis de Sade, and I have the Anise Lavender one. I have the Matahari, and I have Noir Patchouli. This may be my 5th one if I enjoy the sample enough. We'll have to see. So let's get started with this. We're now at 7:17, and shortly I'm going to be bringing some guests in. I am going to catch up here with the comments here. This is an example of JJ filibustering to compensate for Eugene's chronic lateness. No, Eugene is actually punctual. He has been waiting in the wings. I always have an introduction before I bring in panelists and guests. So he is here patiently waiting for us, and he'll be coming in shortly. So I do want to give him credit where it's due. He is punctual. Hello, EDP. Oh, the EDP. Okay, very well, very nice. I prefer the EDP to the parfum. The EDP breathes more. The spices breathe more in the EDP, the original. So I'm glad that you're enjoying that. I am very pleased that my sample that I sent to you resulted in a new favorite of yours. Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for stopping by. 40 people and 9 likes. Oh, I have a cheerleader. Yes. Like it. Like the video if you can. I don't know what it really does at this point. It's wonderful that I have 37 people tuned in, though. That's perfect. I'm very happy with that. By the end of the night, Unum will be the winner. I'm coming for second prize. Hey, I was kind of wondering if that one would end up winning out of the 3. Okay, let's see here. We'll get started. I'm going to start with the first one. So it will be Unum Ennui Noir. I'm going to put it on the right hand. Give it a moment to think about which hand it is. Uh, right. So I want to make a statement here on reviewing fragrance. And I will do that in a second because I want to really let these top notes hit me. Hit me! Ooh. Mm. Ooh. Somehow this kind of reminds me of the heliotrope that somehow appears in Salvador Dali Poron. It's a dark heliotrope. This is it's a very gothic kind of heliotrope. I mean, it's Unum, and I love Labs. That's one of my favorite incenses. Oh no! It's too late now. Okay, thank you. Whoa, that's great. Perfumery trick is wonderful. I envy you if you have a full bottle, if you have a good quantity of it. Okay, this is superb so far. I like it. It's like a musty kind of dank heliotrope, though. It's not a joyful scent, which is interesting because, but I could. It's not like a miserable, morbid, morose kind of scent either. There's something kind of like dusty, forlorn. These are just adjectives that are coming into my head. Yeah, I'd like to revisit this one. This one is interesting to me. I have a lot of heliotrope centered scents, and this is not like any of them. All right, next one, what we have here is Liquide Imaginaire Desert Suave. All right, let's see. On the left hand, it goes. I have not tried anything by Liquide Imaginaire, but it seems to be the influencer favorite. Not sure if this happens to be a brand that does the, collaborations, or it could just be that it's a very popular, newer niche brand. I know very little about it. The bottles are kind of interesting, sort of like this torchlier kind of shape. Okay. Mm. Hmm. Um, there is this interesting sort of butteriness, like a buttery woodiness. And usually when I think buttery, I think sandalwood. But there's also the citrus. This one has me dying to just look at the notes pyramid. I don't remember what it is, so I'm gonna look it up. I can't. The immediate reaction is like I can't tell how I feel about it. It's not like like I didn't do the ooh, but I didn't do the oh. I'm curious, and if there is an ambiguous response, often that ends up being something I enjoy. All right, let's see. Looking this up, people, liquide imaginaire, liquids, imaginaires. All right, desert suave. Okay, and interesting. I think I know where the butteriness comes from. It does not come. It does not come from the. Now I remember. Now I remember, Pat. I remember why. I was discussing this with you. I've been looking for different types of sesame fragrances or fragrances that just feature a sesame note. Now, power of suggestion. Okay. Mm. Two all beef patties all the way down to the sesame bun. I am kind of thinking it's like sesame now. But there is a sweetness, like It doesn't really remind me so much of dates, though. Like, I don't get a date vibe. It's like almost like more cloyingly sweet than date, if you can believe it. But maybe this buttery kind of effect is a result of the sesame with the dates. Now, according to the notes breakdown, it's not exactly a pyramid. We also have orange blossom, cardamom, cedar, mandarin orange. That may account for the citrus that I picked up, and rose. So, um, hmm. I'm very particular about these types of scents where they're very sweet, um, with very rich kinds of, you know, date, figgy kind of stuff. I love Arabi by Serge Lutens. Um, and all I can think about is there's a certain je ne sais quoi. Maybe it's that Christopher Sheldrake DNA. I actually did a story on Instagram, and it was more like a rhetorical question. I just thought it was kind of amusing, where I said, how can two perfumes necessarily share a DNA with the two perfumes having been composed by two different perfumers? And reviewers always say, like, this has the same DNA as such and such. And then it will be a fragrance that's, it may have some similar notes perhaps, but it's like an entirely different perfumer, different house, so on and so forth. This definitely, I know it doesn't share the same DNA as Christopher Sheldrake, but it doesn't even have like similar DNA. I'm not too crazy about it. I have to be honest. I wish there was more sesame and less cloyingly sweet date. I like date. I like the date that comes through like Alud from L'Artisan, where it's like kind of tempered with like some more animalic and cuminic and dirty kind of notes. All right, so the third one is the critically lauded, hailed as a 4-star by Luca Turin, Histoire de Parfum 1828. And I will put this on my right wrist. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Well done. I like this kind of stuff, so I'm just waiting around for the nutmeg to really present itself, beyond the alcoholic blast. And it's camphorous, and I'm a sucker for camphorous stuff. Um, I immediately approve of this one. I'm sorry, I don't know. There's just something about these kinds of scents. I mean, let's face it. Like, I have tons of like classic woody, spicy kind of, masculine kind of scents. So this comes as no surprise that I enjoy this one. Yeah. So far, okay. So far that one is in the lead, 1828. But that doesn't mean that Unum couldn't be some sort of dark horse. And then later on, I realized, wow, this is something I need in my life, which I will smell on this side of my hand. Ooh, and I almost kind of pick up something kind of Costas like. Ooh, and I love my Costas. I love that weird kind of sebaceous, like scalpy hair, scalp, skin smelling kind of Costas note. But I pick it up here with the Heliotrope. Now I'm actually really kind of digging this. I think right now, 1828 and Ennui Noir are tied. And Liquide Imaginaire Desert Suave. No. No. I'm good. I'm good with that one. It's Arabi by Serge Lutens and Alud by L'Artisan are hard acts to follow, honestly. Like they're basically the standards for that kind of style, and anything else that is approaching that style are compared to that in my head. It's just how I operate. So if it isn't giving me the same feeling as those, then I'm not going to really be interested in having anything more than a little sample. And it's like a little too sweet, and there's like a little weird plasticky kind of feel to it that I don't really like. All right, so the time is now 7:29. I am going to bring in one of my first guests. I think that Eugene has stepped away for a brief moment, or he has just had, no, changed his mind. I'm going to bring in, I originally was going to bring our, one of our regular panelists, Adam. Well, there he is now. Now it's going to be a competition for who gets in first. Guess I'm just going to have to bring in two at a time. All right, so first, we're going to bring in Adam Forziati, and he is a regular panelist of mine. You'll be seeing him frequently over the next few weeks. So with, let's give a round of applause to Adam. All right, hi.
Imagine the fanfare, just, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm going to bring in Eugene. Hello.
What's up, everybody? Hey, Adam, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How you doing, Eugene?
Wonderful sound. Envious of that. I need to do a little.
Yeah, you came prepared with a nice mic there, Eugene.
And then lastly, another good pal of mine, Anooj. I'm going to bring him in. So this is the first time we are having a 4-person panel. Anooj, hey.
What's up, gentlemen?
What's going on? All right, so I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat here. I still have a tough time juggling between hosting and checking out the chat here, but I just want to give a few different highlights. Aperçu, yes, I have the Parfum Astray. That's a lovely one. That one was one that it was, I'm not sure if it was I don't know if it was re-released as an older fragrance that was reintroduced, but I know that it came out in the 2000s. It's a great, great chypre. Do you see a link between Eau que de Zizet and Ennui Noir? I can kind of see that. Yes, yes. Okay. All right, so let's get things started. All righty. So, per Eugene's request, we were going to have a little bit of a chit chat on Chanel Les Exclusifs. If you don't mind, folks, I'm going to grab the 4 full bottles that I have. I have 2 samples over here, but Eugene, get the conversation started. I'm literally going to be 5 seconds.
I will. Let me first say hello to Anooj. Anooj, how's it going?
It's going fantastic. And you, brother?
Very well. It's good to see you again. I know the last time we met, we had a blast, but I did walk away with one of your perfumes. I ended up going home with both bottles of hair that were on the table, and that was a complete accident. But
it's all good.
It's safe. I have it. It's in good hands, and I'll drop it off sometime soon.
All good.
The chat. I hope everybody's well.
That's some herby goodness.
Yeah,
I love that
lovely
one.
Perfume.
Yeah.
And you know, Anooj never said anything. He's just such a classy guy. He's like, did you notice it was missing?
Oh, I thought I'd just taken it back upstairs because these bottles are coming and going like
right. Because I had I went to go visit Anooj, and I brought a bunch of boxes with perfumes, and as I was packing up, I ended up putting his bottle in my box, and I was like, and I didn't unpackage, like that video was what, 2 weeks ago or something, and I just unboxed all my stuff the other night, and I was like, oh shit, I got one of Anooj's perfumes here. Better let him know. But yeah.
So that's actually your possession, Anooj. That's your bottle in Eugene's possession.
Eugene had bought one from me previously, but it was the more modern, with the black instead of the glass in the middle.
Yeah.
I had one left over, so I wanted him to be able to compare it when he was at my warehouse doing the stream, so he could show both and compare both together.
Yeah. If I recall, it started off with a full window in the middle, and then they just truncated it to the window on the top, and then it's just a full matte bottle. Yeah, that is that's the one I have sitting over there. I'm not going to get out of my seat again. I have it sitting right over there. The full window. That's a wonderful one. So, Anooj, would you say that there's some considerable differences, or are there differences between those different iterations of bottles? I respect your.
To me, to be honest, no. I don't. But I know there are some people who vehemently say that there is, especially with that glass panel, glass door one.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I heard too. And like I said last week, like I give into the hype, and then I find out later on sometimes when I find a more recent bottle, I'm like, damn it, why did I listen to them? I ended up spending so much on this older bottle.
Only just strict research in terms of because now what we have for sale in our stores is just the last formulation, which is just, without any glass at all. But the customers who are buying that haven't so far complained to say, oh, we want the older. They just buy that anyways. So that just leads me to the conclusion that it must be okay.
Right.
That's
so.
So
according to Rudy here, he states that the oak moss was completely taken out. I have both, but perhaps. Unless Rudy had made some observations between the older bottle and the newer bottle, and he sees some significant changes, that there was a good replacement. We do have oak moss replacements. Maybe they did a very good job of filling that void that was left from the restrictions of oak moss. So, yeah, it does happen. So, Les Exclusifs. I have 4 full bottles here. We have the one that Eugene says is one of the best designers in the past 20 years, Le Lion, and probably one of the most significant and impactful releases that we will see for many years to come from Chanel. So Le Lion, this is one that has been heavily discussed. Eugene, give me some words on what. Tell me why you have such a give such a superlative to Le Lion.
I think it's just a part of it is surprised that Chanel has decided to put something out this exciting, because it's been a very long time since we've seen we've seen Chanel say something in terms of this. Like, we haven't seen anything as strong as this probably since Antaeus or even Coco. So it's been 30 years or whatever, 40 years, right, since we've seen a fragrance this strong. And I think in its 100-year history, 100 years plus, this is by far the most exciting perfume Chanel has ever put out. So we waited 100 years for this, right? So that for me is exciting in and of itself. And I don't think we're going to see something like this in a very, very long time. It's just not their thing.
Adam, what's your take? Are you familiar enough with Le Lion?
I am.
Please give us your take, hot or otherwise. Give you a hot take, it's fine. It's welcome.
Would you prefer a tepid take?
Tepid take is fine too. Any temperature is allowed here.
Temperature. Well, I will say the way that you just spoke about it, though, it reminds me of the way like Northeasterners speak about, how the Red Sox got their World Series after 100 years. I'm not a sports fan, in case it's not terribly obvious, so I'm just sort of mimicking what I'm hearing there. But it was funny that you said it like that. And it is sort of exciting to see a house actually like Chanel that has a lot to lose if it releases a risky release to go forth with it anyway. Because I think for me, watching that the House of Chanel, I think I was a little bit more preoccupied with their Eau de Chanel. What is it? I think it's EAUX. De Chanel, the Paris Edinburgh is the recent one that people seem to really enjoy. I'm quite fond of the Paris Riviera. That's obviously a very different kind of scent, and both of those are very different kinds of scents from Le Lion. Much lower concentration. It's designed to perform very differently. Certainly not for everyone there, but it was really refreshing to see, or to get my nose on Le Lion, because I wasn't expecting Chanel to kind of like come at you with a powerhouse amber, not for a while anyway. And it's been really enjoyable coming back to that from the little sample that I had.
So I'm out of all of Les Exclusifs that I've sampled, which are, there are 4 that I actually own and 2 that I've sampled so far. So I have a long ways to go because there's many.
Sorry, which others do you own? You didn't get to tell us.
Oh, we'll get to that soon. We're going to do these one at a time.
I thought we just throw them all in at once.
I have to keep people on the edge of their seats. Seriously, we have 55 people tuned in. Thank you so much, folks, for your support and for tuning in. Pardon me. So, what is striking to me about Lilian is that it does have a substantivity to it and a real crossover appeal, which I think, Eugene, you make a good point of it being so monumental because of that appeal. Even though it is in Les Exclusifs, it could have very well have been perhaps a more midline designer release, but what sets it apart also is the fact that it has such wonderful quality ingredients. I know quality is that's debatable, but you know, it's a debate. What is quality? But you can just tell that there's a lot of care and consideration and effort put into all of these. But to have something like Lilian that has that that crossover appeal is probably the magic behind its acclaim and success. Anooj, have you tried it? Have you tried Lilian?
I have not. I've only ever smelled 2 of the Les Exclusive, and the only reason is just because it brought back memories, because I'm familiar with those fragrances. That's Gardenia and Number 22.
Yes.
I've only been in a Chanel boutique twice in my life, and both times within 5 minutes, out of jealousy and depression, I had to leave because as a Chanel account, but a lower Chanel account, I have no access to carry those Les Exclusifs.
Right.
Very childishly jealous and say, okay, well, I'm leaving now.
Well, that is true. You can only purchase these from a boutique, and not even a Chanel counter in a department store. It has to be a Chanel boutique or online, obviously. I think what I would like to do, well, also what I wanted to mention, Anooj, is that the Gardenia and Number 22 were actually kind of rolled into Les Exclusifs. Those are much older fragrances. So there's a few of those, we can segue to the next one that I have. So there's a Bois d'Azil, which I don't have any recent version of that. And also this one, Cuir de Lucie. Cuir de Lucie. Yeah, I'm not even going to bother, but this is it. That's what I have. I have the EDP version. So there seems to be much conversation on differences. People really want these older versions, or they may prefer the EDT to the EDP. I've even heard some people say they prefer the EDP to the EDT. Eugene is somebody who I recognize has a lot of expertise with these. What would you say about that? The distinctions, the differences, what to get. It doesn't matter.
They're so minimal. I try not to get carried up. I mean, most people can't even explain the differences, right? Or I think both are great. I own both. Slightly, I prefer the EDT, but I wouldn't spend the time seeking it out. I wouldn't spend the extra money that they're asking for. I think the Eau de Parfum is excellent on its own.
We have a hot take here.
Both are great. And I don't get that vanilla overload. Vanilla doesn't even come to my mind when I wear Le Lion.
No, it doesn't for me.
Dry and raspy, very textured.
Yeah.
I don't think any sort of sweetness when I wear Le Lion.
The only sweetness I detect with Lilian is more resinous sweetness, which is different to me. Right.
Sweetness.
Like it's different to me than, say, like an ethyl vanilla and ethyl maltol sweetness. That's not there. It really all comes from the amber accord. And I've said this before, not really knowing exactly, but this is an amber accord that is, you have ratios. You have the ratios of benzoin, vanilla, and labdanum. Like I truly think that the ratio of labdanum is much larger than the benzoin and certainly much larger than the vanilla. So, but it's a matter of perception. So I do have the EDP of Cuir de Lucie, and I'm perfectly happy with it. I think it's done splendidly. Adam, are you familiar with any version of Cuir de Lucie?
No, I know about the Accord, right? Because it's based on a very classical sort of approach to, or model, if you will, or accords of Russian leather accords, and I've experimented with some of like the accords that you can kind of build yourself. I know Joseph and I are both really kind of into blending our own accords and fragrances, and it's really great to be able to appreciate contemporary, professionally done versions of these classical approaches to fragrance by doing them yourself a little bit. So I'm familiar with the Accord itself, but not this Chanel version of it.
Mm-hmm. And this would be considered probably among the most famous of a Cuir de Russie. I know that Guerlain had a Cuir de Russie as well, which is highly coveted. I'm not familiar with that one. So that's my second one. Next is Coromandel. So Coromandel, the reason why I have Coromandel is that I had samples of it for ages and ages. I had the EDT, and then I didn't replenish it for a long time, and then I got the EDP version, and to me it didn't seem so entirely different from my memory. From what my memory served me, it was similar. It seemed the same to me, but I'm sure there are people who are like, it's absolutely different. I've read a lot about it. I've heard people say this. But my first knowledge of Coromandel was from none other than Katie Puckrick. That was actually my very first knowledge from her video. And of course, her videos are great. So that's when I first learned of it. So Eugene, Coromandel, tell us, what do you think of that one? Love it. Yeah.
Love it. So to the person that said they thought Le Lion was sweet, I think, if you said Coromandel was sweet, I would agree with you. Yeah. And I think Coromandel is a play on the same theme, just very, very different, drier and less sweet. But, they both utilize that very dry, scratchy, abrasive patchouli, resins, powders, very similar theme, just, completely worlds apart, like different. They have a very different outlook and feeling to them.
Mm-hmm. And have either of you, Adam? Yes.
No. Well, I'm really glad that you brought this one to the fore here, because I actually had a question for the three of you. So I'm having a big patchouli moment, and as such, I wanted to write up, sort of a journey of like some big patchouli fragrances and just sort of compare the ones. I'm not going to use the term soliflores because I don't want to just say that I'm only doing notes of just patchouli, because there are some like solely patchouli fragrances out there, but I wanted to kind of expand that horizon to include fragrances that may have other notes going on, but they all kind of build up and raise the patchouli aspect of the fragrance up on the skin. So, my thing is that I'm writing up a patchouli roundup, right? And so I'm wondering if I should include Coromandel, because on one hand, I do enjoy the patchouli in it. I don't think there's any arguing that there is patchouli used, really. I mean, it's a patchouli forward fragrance for sure, but it's also about that sweetness that you were talking about. So I'm kind of curious to know if I should even bother with it in this particular kind of roundup.
I would certainly put Coromandel inside of a patchouli list. And if you had to pick between Coromandel and Le Lion, I would side more with Coromandel, because the patchouli kind of gets lost inside of the complexity of Le Lion, and it's much more visible in Coromandel. But I'd also, in that list, I would include L'Instant de Guerlain and Héritage.
Héritage, yeah. I think the patchouli in Le Lion is just more of a modifier. It's not really, it's not in the forefront. It's because that's the thing, patchouli often shows up in fragrances just more so to modify. It doesn't really push forward. But I did a patchouli week once on Instagram, and I definitely chose Coromandel for it. So without hesitation, I would recommend it as well.
I will say, behind every great amber accord is a patchouli somewhere in the mix. It just sort of has
a role.
Effect.
It has a role. It certainly does. Next, Coromandel, we have my favorite of my 4 full bottles, which is 31 Rue Cambon, or 31 Rue Cambon. That is my 4th one. This one, I love all of these, but this one is my favorite. This one I fell head over heels with, courtesy of Rudy, who had given me a sample, and it was all done from there. So let's talk about this one. I know, Eugene, you must love this one too.
To death. I think it's brilliant. Iris, like I do believe the Les Exclusifs are a study on iris, and they all showcase different facets of iris. And this is a great one. Spicy, woody, and it's the actual smell inside of 31 Rue Cambon when you go to the Chanel boutique. So it has a you know, a part to play with Chanel. Most Les Exclusifs do, right? They kind of intertwine with Coco's life in some way or another. But yeah, I love just kind of the golden hues of 31 Rue Cambon.
And a lot of that, to me, is courtesy of the ylang ylang too. The ylang ylang really bursts open not too long after you apply it. It's one of my favorite examples of ylang ylang used to great effect. And ylang ylang is a tough note. It's a tough note because it's very muscled, very ripe, yellow floral, kind of take no prisoners. If you have a little too much extra, it's like kind of overripe. But in that, there's something about the synergy between the iris and the ylang ylang that is just, it's just radiant. It just, I can't say enough good things about it. And then these are all the EDPs. Yeah. I'm sure, you know, somebody would say like the EDT was even better. But I think it's
it definitely, you know, for modern perfume, it would definitely fit in with like yesteryear's classics. It's like old world, right?
And I definitely gravitate to the old world style, or just new releases that draw heavily from that. So it makes perfect sense that it's a favorite of mine. So.
And this 31 Rue Cambon was really the first iris themed perfume where I was able to kind of get like that mushroomy, fungal, earthy quality, and from that I've seen it like pop up in other Chanel perfumes like Coco Noir. It's got that same fungal aspect. 1932 again. It's got that fungally mushroom thing going on. So coming from iris, and what I love about the irises that Chanel uses is just so many different facets they can showcase. You know, iris can do so many different things, right?
Yeah.
It could be waxy, it could be powdery, it could be leathery, lipsticky, rooty, green, vegetal, like the list goes on and on and on. There's so much things you can do with it. So
isn't that incredible about so many different fixatives though? Like so many fixative type materials, like patchouli can do that. Patchouli can go into so many directions, and vetiver and even sandalwood. Orris is not easy to peg. I think people who are familiar with the modernization and the mainstreaming of orris have this association with it being almost sweet and cacao-like, when that is really just an accord of, it's not really orris on its own. Orris really comes to life depending upon the types of accords that it joins. It's just really a magical material. So
orris,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Orris on its own isn't a very pleasant material. Like if you smelled orris in its natural state, it's you'd probably revolt. Like you'd be like, "What the hell is this?" You know,
I kind of like it, but I could totally see it. To me, it smells kind of like when you have like brand new money. It smells like that weird smell.
It's very dry.
Yeah, totally.
Very dry.
Yeah.
I have some orris butter right over there. Should I grab it?
Go for it, please.
One moment.
Oh, great. And in the meantime, Rachel had this question here. You mentioned on your Instagram post not to expect another frag like Lilian ever again. You think Chanel?
Yeah, what I meant, I don't mean that, you know, Chanel is dead or over. I think, you know, for me, Chanel is the gold standard in perfumery. They do everything that I love. I just simply meant that they play very safe. They're a very safe brand, but when what they do very well. And it's not very often we get exciting perfumes like this. They're much more into traditional things. They preserve kind of history, you know? So,
indeed.
and this does feel, God, and I hate to say it, a little bit trendy. Like this catering to, let's say, Middle East.
Right.
You know, that's where this perfume was initially launched. It was a Middle Eastern exclusive with you know, they don't state inside of the perfume or in the note pyramid, but the biggest scam in all of perfume, which is oud, right?
Mhm,
They don't
mhm.
state, but you could easily say there's probably oud in this perfume. What is oud? Unless you're paying top dollar for oud, the majority of people smelling Western perfume have never smelled real oud, right?
No, they haven't
It's a
smelled
word, it's
agarwood
perception.
chips. Right. They haven't smelled the agarwood chips. They haven't smelled the incense burning. They
Right,
haven't smelled the oud attars, the oils.
right.
So their reference point ends up being pretty much the Firmenich oud base, the olfactory oud base, and like 2 or 3 other oud bases that are readily available to
You
the
don't
industry.
even need the synthetic molecule or nor limbinol. You can just have like a smoky wood chips accord and say, "Ta-da! It's
Yeah.
oud."
Right,
Right?
right.
Who's gonna know? But oud today in the Western world is perception, and it's a 3-letter word that means absolutely nothing in perfume as we know it, which
Mhm.
they are charging top dollar for.
Right, right.
It's,
I'm
it's
even seeing it
about
on like, oh, go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
sorry, no, and it's about 40 to 50% cashmerean, by the way, which is a very inexpensive material. I'll say
Right.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Biggest scam in
Hmm.
perfume, and we're all
Hmm.
paying for it.
And a ton of that cashmerean is in like things like Glade, oud and vanilla, room spray. Axe has an oud. Like it's been so diluted at this point. That's why, and not to go on too far of a tangent, I was so shocked when Guerlain had all of these new oud fragrances. I'm like, is this a smart move? Like I didn't really understand why. There
This
was
is
like,
to cater to the new world. This is the TikTok
mm,
market. Guerlain is
mm.
not the same Guerlain we know of, right?
Mm, that's a whole other conversation that we should explore another time because I'm agreeing with you on that, and I'm just wondering, what kind of identity do they want at this point? Moving on though quickly because I want to kind of go over the rest. This is a huge line we're talking about. So, and I have 2 samples here. I have 1957, also courtesy of Rudy. Shout out to Rudy, and it's a little baby bottle. I love these little babies. So I think this is a really stunning musk. Like this
It's
is very.
gorgeous.
I'm not sure if I'm going to go full bottle because this is a pretty generous amount. Like I want to get acquainted with it over the next several months. But
I'm really excited for you to describe this one because it's one of them that I haven't smelled yet, and I've been curious about it. This looks a little bit more my speed because I tend to shy away from anything remotely powdery. I tend to be very sensitive to those kinds of notes,
yeah,
and I tend to just be kind of pushed away from it. But and so on one hand, I'm seeing lots of aldehydes in the note pyramid here.
yeah.
I'm seeing musks, which can be skewed very powdery. I'm seeing orris in the notes as well, which is of course a typically powdery material. At least it is in terms of how they portray it. But I'm also seeing things like orange blossom and pink pepper and coriander and honey, and these are all accords that I love. So I'm kind of curious to know what you get from this.
The word that comes to mind, and this is interesting for a musk-oriented scent, is purity. There's just this like poetic purity to it. All of those notes together are just these very round, open notes. Like they have like this resonance. They kind of like if you were looking at it visually, they're just like that's just what I'm experiencing when I smell it.
Well, okay, so first, this is based on Musk, and it never really goes like Musk Kublai Khan-ish, like poopy, but there are
Yeah.
moments where it goes, let's call it dry skin or lover
Mhm.
skin. It goes a little bit sour, but it just kind of tiptoes that line, right? It steps on that line and it backs off. It never really gets vulgar.
Mhm.
There's times where I want it to go a little bit deeper, but Chanel's just too classy for that, right?
Yeah. They don't really steer into the territory of heavy animalics. They tread the waters, but they don't go fully into that. But yeah, there is that. It's kind of like it's how I described Costas earlier. And some musk compounds do this. It's kind of like your skin, but better. It's kind of like that lived-in sheets, kind of like two people rustling in a bed, you know, in the morning after a long night, kind of.
It really is beautiful, and it wears just as beautiful. But there's different versions or varieties of musk in here, and you can, you know, throughout the day you can see them like appearing or disappearing or coming back, like different versions of musk.
Mm-hmm.
Really lovely perfume.
Moving on, because we have sort of like a conveyor belt here, but yes, 1957 I like very much. Beige, which I don't remember. I think I got this when I purchased 31 Rue Cambon. I have not even sampled this yet. And I already have like the 3 first impression samples, so I got to be careful here. I put the 1957 dangerously close to the Unum Ennui Noir, but I think that's okay. So I'm going to try beige for the very first time here. I read reviews about it, and I've, you know, just did my own research, and I wasn't sure if I would like this, but we'll see. First impressions. Here's another one.
I find this kind of like the strangest of the collection.
Oh. Mm.
And this one is, it's a little bit too high pitched for my liking.
It is. I really like honey a lot. And that's what I knew honey was the crux of this, but
it's very sharp and almost piercing.
Yeah, it is. It is. That opening is really high, trebly.
Yeah, very high pitched.
So for those unfamiliar with this scent, it's based on 4 primary accords of frangipani flower, hawthorn, freesia, and honey. And so to your credit, from my memory of smelling it, I kind of wished that it had settled more on the freesia, hawthorn side of the spectrum than the frangipani honey side of the spectrum, which are, you know, you're looking at 2 sides where, you know, frangipani and honey are sweet and heavy and thick and rich, and freesia, hawthorn, a little bit more ethereal accords. And yeah, I thought that those aspects of it were the more beautiful and the more admittedly easier to wear.
And I love hawthorn as a note. In fact, the scented blossoms of hawthorn is such a strange, ethereal experience. Like if you go close to the blossoms, they're almost like what? Like they're kind of too intense. But when the scent is in the ear, it's just like this gorgeous, anisic, kind of powdery, but musky kind of smell. Actually, anisaldehyde, a type of aldehyde, not an allopathic one like the aldehydes that we usually discuss in, you know, with like Chanel fragrances like number 22 and number 5, but anisaldehyde, really, that if you smell that, it's like 90% of what hawthorn blossoms smell like. It's one of my favorite notes. I love how it's used actually in Clé d'Ange from Hermes. That, to me, the reason why that has such a suede feel to it is because of the hawthorn / anisaldehyde. This is it's kind of overwhelming. Like for the first, I mean, these are just the first few minutes, but I'd have to
be a lot. And there's moments where I feel like this gets kind of into that dirtied floral territory coming from the honey, and there's times where that honey accord reminds me of 1957. It's kind of doing the same thing here as it does in that perfume. Kind of tiptoes that dirtiness and then backs off. Doesn't go full on skank.
You know, come to think of it, you know, based on what you're saying that you like versus what you dislike about this one, if you're looking for something that goes a little less high register and kind of stays in that relaxing kind of in between area, I really like the honey and frankincense combination in something like Imaginary Author's Fox in the Flower Bed. They really do a very successful rendition of like white florals, a little bit more nondescript than the florals in this, mind you, but I believe they share a note of freesia, if I'm not mistaken. So there are some more similarities besides the honey, but the honey in that perfume is exceptionally timid in comparison to this, but in a good way. It's less screechy. It's a little more relaxed, kind of ethereal in comparison. So I really recommend that one if you like the idea of like a floral honey. It's got some resinous frankincense involved. It's really cool fragrance. If I'm being perfectly honest. Really
Adam,
fun.
if you wouldn't mind putting the name of that in the chat, just make sure it's the first column and not the private column, and then folks can reference it. So Margie asks Eugene, please describe what patchouli does for perfume and why you love it so much.
I think it's one of the greatest materials in all of perfume, one of my favorites. And the reason being is it can add a lot of texture, and I am all about texture and contrasts. And what patchouli does for me, it can be scratchy, right? I like that feeling of scratch, not too scratchy, right? It's still got to be smooth within its scratchiness, right? It's a little bit abrasive, almost like sandpaper. And when you contrast or counter that with a smooth material, let's say mint, it offers a very nice contrast. So I think perfume, just like life, is all about contrast. You need that. If patchouli is going one way, you want another material coming the other way to offer that contrast, that mix of hot and cold, light and dark. And patchouli is just great for that textured material.
And one could say it's sort of like it provides texture, but it also kind of provides a shade for the tints.
Depth, colors.
Right.
It's a very dark material. It's mentholated in itself. It's herbal. It's green, right? It's just so much to offer.
It's really funny because when we talk about fragrances, I mean, I guess you could call the four of us fragrance reviewers in some form or another. So forgive me for painting us with a wide brush there, but
and you're just like, yeah, sort of.
For tonight's purposes, I guess we are, right? It is sort of, it almost makes me feel silly when I use the word contrast now, because it's just like most success in fragrance is, to your point, based on something beautiful being paired with another thing that's beautiful in a contrasting kind of way. So it's always funny to think about the words that we use, because it's like, well, should I really use the word contrast here? Because it's like, yeah, of course, that's what it is. It's beautiful. It's an important thing to recognize, is that when a successful perfume is usually successful because it achieves, to your point, that kind of coming together of things.
Yeah. So on the beige, I'm noticing more that freesia note. The freesia is like, it has like a lot, like if you do a freesia accord, it has like a lot of linalool, and linalool is also what makes rosewood and lavender, and so many, it's really a building block of perfumery. But something about freesia with its high dosage of linalool, almost sort of coriander-like. It's like a floral coriander. I like the contrast that is doing here. Now that this is drying down a little bit with the honey, now that it's settled down a little bit, it's growing on me, the beige. So we're just gonna just briefly run down, some of the others that are in the line. And Eugene, as somebody who's familiar with all of them, what are some of the fragrances in Les Exclusifs that you think are overlooked, that people should maybe give it a try? That they're deserving of a little bit more attention.
Well, yeah, I think we've looked at some of the most popular ones: Coromandel, Le Lion, Cuir de Russie. I think number 22 needs attention. Boy I love Boy as a modern day fougere, something that is complex and an excellent daily driver that is interesting and very well made. Number 18 is gorgeous and very often misunderstood, because it's probably sticks out in the Les Exclusifs like a sore thumb. However, okay, it is very deeply connected to both Coco and Egoist. Right?
Yeah.
I guess that's its doorway into the Les Exclusifs, and Jacques Polge was the creator of all three. To me, Egoist is the masculine Coco. and number 18 is, I guess, their unisex or exclusive version of both. So there's definitely a triangle there that connects all three of those. A rose patchouli, you know, that to me is a very spicy, musky rose patchouli. Absolutely gorgeous. It's got that prunol, that plum thing that you get in cocoa, that you get in the Go East. Quite spicy, very transparent, very kind of weightless, and that thing that I love, just very airy and whimsical, kind of like a Jean-Claude Elena. You know, it's not heavy like Egoist or Coco. Those are both very heavy, dense, thick, compact perfumes.
Yeah.
Where 18 is just, it's very almost like spiritual, right? It just kind of floats and disappears, comes and goes. I love that.
I'm absolutely thrilled that you chose number 18, because that is exactly the next one that I wanted to sample. Because just reading all of them, there's something so fascinating about how people describe it, how they like it, how they dislike it, how it's just the structure, its similarity to Egoist, but not quite, and the fact that it is an ode to ambrette, which is one of my favorite notes. Like, I love ambrette seed. If you ever smell like an absolute or an oil of ambrette, it's like, I can't believe it comes from a plant. It's just such a wild smell. It's great stuff. So that is the next one.
The spice accord is brilliant. You know, some cumin, maybe a little bit of clove. So it's got the spiciness, it's got the woodiness, it's got the florals, the musk. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous perfume.
All right.
I think,
go ahead.
You know what? A lot of people, and I have a problem with this, a lot of people have a problem paying for perfumes that don't project and hit you like a truck. You know, if you can't smell it for 18 hours and, oh, it's not worth the money.
Yeah, I know.
Shut the fuck up, man.
As if spending money on fragrance is ever quite easy to justify. That's the thing, you know, it's a luxury product at the end of the day. And you really got to seek out the ones that you like. And sometimes the performance is something that's going to be a sacrifice.
Right. I see when I experience perfume, I experience it. I try to experience it not, and this is how I review as well, not merely as, you know, somebody who's analyzing or judging it, but observing it. So in observing perfume, I don't really take in consideration how I'm feeling or how I'm going to feel like 5 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, because I'm letting go of the attachment of things lasting and giving perpetual satisfaction, because that's not how life operates. So in turn, that's not really how perfume operates. The very essence of perfume is that it's ephemeral. So when you're present with the fragrance, and you take it in for every detail and every nuance that your nose, your olfactory center can perceive, then you kind of forget about time. You don't really care about that as much. You're not so caught up on it. And I think a lot of people are missing out on some incredible fragrances because either they read that it doesn't perform well, or they had these very unrealistic expectations of it.
Dude,
yeah, these are enlightened words, truly.
I have probably 500 or 600 bottles of perfume behind me. I can grab any one randomly and take it to work with me for the day, and it's going to last 10 hours. I don't, unless it's a Guerlain Eau de Cologne from 1800s, you know, where they aren't meant to be bombastic and last.
Yeah.
The majority of perfumes created are with the intention of lasting. And just because you can't smell them doesn't mean, you know, they're not performing.
It's a good point.
I love what you just said. It drives me crazy to read so many like negative posts about a particularly brilliant piece of work when it's often user error that leads to this idea that, you know, they don't perform well. It's something that I find myself talking about with any other perfume nerd all the time. It's like, sometimes what you need to realize is that by over applying fragrance, you are tiring your nose out, you are
Fatigue.
misunderstanding it. And the best thing that you can do to really know if a perfume is for you performance wise is to go really easy with it at first. Ease into it. Take your time with the sample. Don't apply like a million sprays at first. Apply 1 or 2. And then
Spray
if
far
that's
away
not
from your
enough,
nose.
maybe do 3.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Spray lower down on the chest. Don't spray on the neck. Spray far away from the nose.
The risks really
Sage
bother me
first.
too. The risks are, I think, are a mistake when you're just getting to know a fragrance, because how much time during the day do you move your hands around? You know what I mean? Like if you're reaching for something, if you're just like scratching your head under stress, like you bring your wrists up to your face more than you think. So that would be another just tip that I would give, is if you're first getting to know a fragrance, maybe like you said, do the chest, something like that where it's static.
Right.
You know what drives me just nuts is, you can have 2 bottles of the same perfume bought on the same day with the same batch code, and they might not smell identical. The perfume is an absolute. Like, they were created in the same plant, using the same materials, but depending on the day, your skin chemistry, the weather, your diet, are you hydrated, are you fucking on stressed out or whatever, they can perform different. And then you get like a perfume like Dior Sauvage, which is 99% synthetic, right? Costs 50 cents to make, and they're like 6 months after it's been released, there's this like, oh my God, Dior Sauvage has been reformulated. It doesn't. No, shut up. Like, don't start with this. Like, why? Why are they going to reformulate a perfume that is created to be synthetic so they don't need to reformulate it anymore?
It's so fascinating how this pathology developed with the rise of social media and the internet. Like, these were not discussions that people had when experiencing fragrance. Then again, the amount of frag heads and fragrance enthusiasts were far fewer as well. I think that also kind of contributed to this whole culture of fragrance as a utility that is meant to do something. It's meant to perform for us. Like it's seen much the same way as like a sports vehicle of some type, or a watch. Fragrance is inherently, it behaves inherently different than a static object. Not that cars are necessarily static, but you get my point. And there's always this chemistry. There's this chemical reactions always taking place within a fragrance. Every day is just like us. It's aging. Every day there's like another day of it may be so subtle you don't notice it, but that's the reality of fragrance as well. Not that I want to move on to another subject, but I wanted to just get Mike V's question in here, Eugene, if you don't mind answering this. Are there any from the Les Exclusifs that you dislike?
I think they're all very strongly made. They're all, conceptually, they're well made. Are there any I dislike? I don't think there's any I dislike, but beige is probably the one that I wear the least. There was a time where I thought Bella Speedo was the weakest of the collection. So I went into it. I was like, why do I think that? Why? Like, I love wearing perfumes that I don't like, or I find that they bother me, and maybe like trying to figure out what it is I don't like about the perfume instead of just judging it. In getting to know it, I fell in love with it, and I think it's become one of my favorite Les Exclusifs. So yeah, it's not as exciting as Le Lion. It doesn't smell as good as Coromandel, but there's just something about it that just connects me back to myself. I wear perfume for an entirely different reason today than I did 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I wore it, I put it on after a shower to smell good and fresh for myself and the people around me. And today it's like I wear perfume to meet myself on the deepest level as I possibly can as a human being, and extract emotions out of me, and just experience life, and you know, perfume has this way of pulling these really intricate emotions out of me that wouldn't be possible without. And you know, Bella Speedo does that for me. It takes me to a place that I think of before mankind, before man was even on the earth. You know, it's just so green and dreary, and it's got that leather accord, and I think snakes slithering through the grass for some reason. You know, it's this really dark leather accord. So I love it, you know, but I get people will spray it at the counter and they'll kind of take a whiff and they'll be like, oh, this is boring. Well, yeah, you smelled it for 5 seconds. You're not able to observe the way it plays out. You know, there's a lot of development in these perfumes,
right?
And they conjure so many feelings and emotions inside of us. So I think, you know, there's a lot of lazy assessing out there, myself included. You know, lazy assessments, a quick sniff, and we write off perfumes. But perfumes, the majority of them take 8 to 10 hours to play out. So, you know, you need to spend the time. You need to invest the time to assess a perfume properly.
We live in an era now of instant gratification is necessary for everything. And that kind of can't really cross, or shouldn't, in my opinion, cross over into the fragrance game. I think Adam made a great point. Something that's very underrated is nose fatigue. There are many people who have wonderful noses, but at the end of the day, you're a fucking human being. After you smell 5 or 6 within a small period of time, give your nose a break, go take a walk, get some fresh air, and then revisit and come back. And then maybe pick 1 or 2 to say, okay, on this day, we're going to try it on skin and take it for a ride. But, you know, we live in an era where, and partly it's not the consumer's fault. They come in, and in years past, there were maybe 2 or 3 fragrances by a designer. Now they come in and there's like 30, 40 of them. So they just get overwhelmed. Like, I need to smell every single of this, you know, and then pick the best one out of it. But it shouldn't work like that, especially when you're paying big bucks now.
Exactly. You make a very good point. The marketplace is so saturated, it causes this mental and sensory overload. And we're in a culture of FOMO, fear of missing out. And I think that what we may want to revisit is the idea that it may be necessary to miss out and to not always be on top of everything that's coming out. To take a breather, literally and figuratively, to take in and observe the fragrance or fragrances, observation. It's like you said, Eugene, with your explanation of experiencing fragrance. The way that you described it speaks exactly to that concept of observation rather than analysis and judgment. And what I find in our community is that it's like a conveyor belt of like, here's my analysis. This is how I judge it. Should you buy it or should you not buy it? All right, on to the next one, and so on and so forth. I don't know what benefit that really comes. I think that we're losing a lot of what it means to experience and really enjoy fragrance wholeheartedly, rather than the object of it, the material aspect of it. Like, here, it's in my possession. You should have it in your possession too.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of in this TikTok era where everything is fast and quick and thoughtless, and we're all very distracted, and that's how we play out.
Yeah.
You know, we're very much in tune with that very quick burst. Here's my opinion. I've smelt like you know, I'm very guilty of that. I've smelt today for the first time, and I didn't even know Versace had a private line. And
I saw your story on that.
I'm like, Jesus, what is this? Right? And that was after a 10-second sniff. To me, it reminded me so much of what Armani's done with their private line. You know, so I do kind of have that reference point, but you know, I'm guilty of the same things that I'm bitching about.
I think we all are. We all can be. Go ahead, Anooj.
Well, I was just going to say, to me, it's crazy how many designer brands in the mainstream have tried to replicate and duplicate what Chanel has done with the Les Exclusifs. So, like I said, when it comes to actually sniffing and examining these, I've done none of that. But from a business standpoint, I know exactly what they did, and they hit it out of the goddamn ballpark. They accomplished exactly what they wanted to do, and they also created a byproduct, which I think they did accidentally, is that I don't know if Chanel foresaw that their other regular brands were going to become so mainstream. Like, I don't think they actually saw the tidal wave of what Bleu de Chanel was going to become, whether you like it or not or whatever. But they were able to create within their own Chanel universe, literally Les Exclusifs, and it worked. It's completely worked. So from my experiences in our retail stores, every single one of our brick and mortar stores over the years has carried all the mainstream Chanel brands. Okay. But the customers that I've found that have always come in to ask about Chanel, not all of them have talked about and said, do you carry the Les Exclusifs? Some of them didn't even know about them. So complete, like a complete separate customer within the Chanel universe. But I don't find that with other houses, even a house like Guerlain. Unfortunately, it's so sad to say, I don't think their other exclusive brands have separated from the mainstream. The Guerlain customers know about all of it.
Guerlain distribution is a hot mess.
Yeah.
Nobody can figure out what the hell is going on there.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's hard to figure out what. There's just like the cohesion is missing. What line is it niche? Is it exclusive? Is it part of their signature line? And you don't get an answer from Guerlain because they don't know. They just keep pumping out things, and whatever sticks stays, and whatever doesn't, they discontinue.
So Rachel just asks, from a business standpoint, what did they do, as in Chanel, I presume, do so well exactly?
Well, that's a question for Anooj.
So are we talking about like as a company as a whole, or just this concept of Les Exclusifs? So to me, the concept of Les Exclusifs, I think, like I said, what they wanted to do was create this mini universe within the Chanel universe of literally having a customer base that feels, I'm unique because I'm going in. I can only get this in the Chanel boutique, and I'm going in there and I'm buying it. And I'm sure they're all wonderful quality brands, but there is a marketing aspect to it that creates this uniqueness that I have this and this other person doesn't have this type of thing, right? And they've managed to still make big money with their mainstream brands, but they've managed to separate it. Right? In my view, they've managed to separate it.
I would even argue that Dior has done that as well, and maybe even separated it, for better or worse, a little bit more, given that many of their, the entries in their exclusive line have almost been rumored to be discontinued when they haven't been discontinued. You can only just buy them at very specific stores, only in France, for example.
But I still just don't think they're able to do it just on the level that Chanel has.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Just their structure is a little bit more. Everything's a little bit crisper in terms of how brands are marketed, how they're sold. Just everything is just, a little bit notch above everyone else.
I really appreciate the way Chanel has handled their exclusive line, and all the big brands came out with an exclusive line around the same time, mid 2000s, right? I think Hermès was the first one, Hermès.
I believe so, yeah. 2000, wasn't that 2005, 2006?
Yeah, 2005. I think the exclusives came 2007. Dior Privé maybe 2006, and Chanel puts one out every 1, 2, or 3 years, while last year Dior has put out 3 on its own. Chanel's never discontinued a single one. I can't remember Hermès discontinuing a single one, and Dior's constantly discontinuing. Sometimes their best ones, their most creative pieces, they're discontinuing because people aren't buying them. I got a problem with that. That's a little bit troublesome.
Yeah,
because it weakens their collection. Their offering gets weaker and weaker, and you can see just the things they've put out. Like, you look at their last 5 releases, and they're a very different brand than when the Privé started. You know, it's almost like it feels like a bro brand now.
And it's so difficult to navigate. Like, that's actually like a whole line that I never even began to explore. And I'm not willing to, because it's so intimidating, because older versions and, discontinuations, new versions, the inconsistency in the types of fragrances, the perfumers are all over the place. Like, who is it now? Who's the perfumer for most of them? I can't even keep track of.
Eugen is the new.
So Kirk, okay. But I just don't even know where to begin, and I don't even want to. I don't even want to deal with it. I think the only one that I the only two that I wanted to try were Bois d'Argent and what's the one that everybody loves? Eau Noir. But yeah, Eau Noir, because those are the only ones that I've heard much, fanfare. I mean, maybe Mitza and what's that other one? The sweet one.
Ombre Nuit.
Ombre Nuit. Yeah. But I can't, I don't know. I was just like, I can't even bother to get into it. It's just so confusing.
I think Dior has done a hatchet job on just talking about their mainstream brands. You take a classic like Miss Dior, and then, years past they launched Miss Dior Cherie. Great fragrance, beautiful presentation. And then for some stupid reason, they decided to rebrand Miss Dior Cherie as Miss Dior.
Right?
Okay. And then we get into something like, we have classic Eau Sauvage.
Yeah.
In modern times, they bring out Sauvage. Okay, wonderful. You got Sauvage, then you got Sauvage EDT, Sauvage EDP, Sauvage Pure Perfume, Sauvage Elixir. And then guess what? Now we're going to go back, grab Eau Sauvage, and then make Eau Sauvage Pure Perfume. So how are layman people and people who are just not passionate, how are they going to learn and get into it? Like, give it a break. Be organized. Give me a break.
It's part of that's in a nutshell the whole reason why I never really got into the brand in general. I mean, there's a few that I do enjoy. I did appreciate that they relaunched Jules, and they did like a really good reimagining of it. I mean, I think it's actually better than the older version. But what I find kind of funny is they were too cheap to actually like create the old bottles, so they just like they reuse the mold for Higher, because Higher was like their big failure. I was like, okay, I guess that works.
Heart attack on the street, man.
I mean, at least they kept the same logo, the same font. There's some part of the identity, but they just use this old mold for higher energy.
Okay. Honestly, it's insulting.
It is, yeah. So, I wanted to revisit the first impressions that I did at the start. I do this an hour and then the second hour in. So really quickly, guys. So Unum Ennui Noir. Okay, it's dangerously close to 1957. Talk about nose fatigue. I got to be careful. I have to revisit it. It's like a big undecided for this one. Next is that Desert Suave. To me, this dries down to just like one of those very generic Middle Eastern spiced ambers. Like it isn't really resonating with me, so I'm not interested enough to pursue it any further. That one's already out. And then 1828. I love it. I don't know. I love it. I love how it's drying down. It may be, not the most original thing in the world, but hey, I guess Luca Turin was on to something. So far, 1828 is winning. An hour in. Thank you very much for that, guys. So now what we can do is move on to more of a free-form discussion, or we can just sort of organically develop our discussion from what we were already talking about. We're talking about the industry. We're talking about exclusive lines. Do you guys have any other thoughts on that subject?
Well, I did want to quickly just respond to a couple of questions that I had seen in the chat, if you don't mind. It's apropos of nothing that we've been talking about, but I wanted to just say that I saw Erin and Perfume Temple ask about a summertime patchouli, and it just kind of came to me that there is one that I really enjoy that I would consider a summertime friendly patchouli scent. Thundra from Perfume Aroma.
I
It's a
love
very
that one.
atmospheric kind of smell. It's not really your French perfume at all, but it's really interesting and fun. And if you're looking for a summer patchouli, I would turn there first.
And that has like such a dramatic opening that I love. It reminds me of mushrooms. Like it reminds me of like it's very loamy, mossy, not oak moss, but like real moss, like the true botanical moss, like moss on like a log, like a damp woods in the summer after it's rained. I freaking love Thundra.
I
Love
want to
that.
say that it's like a weird fragrance, but really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that inapproachable. I guess maybe just in comparison to some of like the Chanel perfumes that we've been talking about tonight, it might be like it's a sort of a jarring thing to move over to Thundra, but
Yeah,
it's really great. I recommend it.
It is an entirely different direction, a whole different league. Perfume Aroma, despite the fact that their price point is very high, I feel like they can be divided into two categories. Like all of the crowd pleasing but well done and well blended like gourmands, and then these very well done like approaches to different solo notes. Like that one, there's a patchouli, the regular patchouli, which is great. There's Ambra Aurea. It's just very well done, but it's I'm trying to find the right word for it. They're sensible though. They're not trying to be anything more than just quality Italian perfume. And I really enjoy the brand. I have that. I have Thundra. I love and the name escapes me because I'm usually fried this time of the night, but Aqua di Sel. No, wait. You know it, Adam. The aquatic one.
Oh yeah, Acqua di Sale. Oh my god,
Acqua di Sale. It was like on the tip of my tongue. I'm like, I love it, but I can't remember the name. There's that Arso, which to me is like the epitome of like a southwestern like pine forest kind of like it's a very the pine resins. I love that one, and and Ambra Aurea, which I think is one of my favorite ambers. Really a dark, deep, chewy amber. So, but yes, Anooj, there were some questions for you. I think you were a little quiet for a while just because, we were really getting into the nitty gritty with Les Exclusifs. And I didn't grab the question from earlier, unfortunately. I'm still kind of getting the handle of starring those, putting a star on them. But somebody had asked earlier about your acquisition of all of these vintages. Like, how did this come to be? How have you... So for those who need, want a little bit of background, may have been a little bit of a technical issue. Hopefully, Adam will be back. So Anooj, you've been in this business for a while. Your site and your store is Enchante Perfumes. How have you acquired a lot of this stock in these vintage and discontinued fragrances?
So the first advantage that we had as a company was that early on, going back about maybe 25 years ago, the industry wasn't like it is today in North America, where you have 4 or 5 mega companies that have acquired all the other licenses and other distribution houses, and so there's only like 5 major companies that are flooding out fragrances. So in those days in Canada, we had a lot more small local distributors, like, with the old school traditional way of fragrances being sold, where it was not just a company that its own manufacturer was distributing it itself to retailers and then to the end consumer that way. It was where manufacturers were giving out a contract to local distributors. And distributors had all sorts of smaller houses, fragrance houses, like, for example, we had a company here called Beecham Cosmetics. They carried at one point a lot of the old school Balenciaga ladies fragrances. They were the Canadian distributor for them. But as the fragrance market grew, a lot of these smaller Canadian distributors who would only distribute 2 or 3 brands, they would get swallowed up by other bigger companies as the trend would go on. And to be honest, the way we started getting into the vintage game is that they only knew a few large enough independent retailers we happen to be one such where they'd say, well, we're going to get bought up. We're going to go belly up. We want to sell our stuff. Do you want it? And we'd buy that stuff for 10 cents or 20 cents on the dollar. Because we see that, okay, now we know how to store this shit properly. We're getting good at, expanding and getting into it. And so from then on, it just be like scour the market. And I would treat the fragrance market like the stock market. Find fragrances that I think were starting to dip. Their street market or market value would start to get so low that I would think, I think this is gonna get discontinued soon, or it's gonna get hard to find. And then I would just pounce and buy and sit on it and sit on it and sit on it. And of course, now you can't do that as much anymore. So it's kind of like most of the stuff was just acquired from day one and then just filling along the gaps along the way as well.
Very cool. Very cool. So for those who are interested, Anooj does have a site, EnchantePerfumes.com, if I'm not mistaken. Visited enough times. Been a loyal customer for a long time. I think I might have purchased one of my first things from you maybe 2 years ago. But do visit the site. There are some great selections there. I do have a question from Margie. JJ, does Adam have a channel or an Insta? Adam, you don't have a YouTube channel at this time, but on your handle here, we have your Instagram name right here, spoken_ethers.
Thank you, Margie, for asking. Yeah, no, I put that in. I saw your question. I can't, for whatever reason, make a comment in the comment section, so I just decided I'd toss it cleverly up here.
And Eugene would like to say hi to Eva. Hi, Eva.
Dude, Anooj used to have a shop literally 2 minutes away from my house. And I was very familiar with the place. And then I lost touch with him. He had moved. And I guess he moved into several locations.
It was guy's location. And then when they retired, I took it back from them. And you were their customer for a while. And then I think probably you just like you said, just lost touch or whatever. And then it ended up being Rich.
I wonder where that guy went. Like, I wonder where that guy went. And then Rich kept, like, I went there, but I didn't, like, attach the name Enchante to Anooj. And Rich just kept talking about Enchante. And I'm like, all right, go check out this place. And it ended up being the same guy, same person, same family. I was like, holy fuck, what a small world. But
Anooj, do you sell atomizers? Inquiring minds want to know. Do you have?
Yeah, we do, but they're so generic. You can get them anywhere these days.
Yeah.
Amazon has quality stuff that
Yeah, I know Amazon. You can get like an atomizer. If you have a bottle that just you can screw one on, and you can get one no problem from there. Yeah.
And there's a lot of good, like the Trevolo ones are really good. Those Trevolo ones where you can take literally a spray bottle, remove the spray nozzle, and it uses the technology where the Trevolo goes onto the spray nozzle and fills from the bottom. So you don't have to do the traditional spraying through it. And they're cheap.
Yeah.
You have some of these, right? The Trevolo.
Yeah, I lost 5 ml of Nahima Pure Parfum in one of those Trevolo. I'm not a big fan.
Oh, no.
You don't have stocks in it, but god damn.
Empty Sense did catch that I almost had offered to sell one. So sorry. Yes.
I was like, where's this guy going with this? Right?
I was like, so I couldn't remember. It was Sally. Hello, howdy.
I just wanted to say, now that you've put the profile on the screen, I just want to say hi, Fragrance Test Tube. You don't know me, but I like your Instagram account.
Yes, cheers. Me too. I like her sense of humor too. I love that video that she did a while back. She made this video of like caricatures of different people in the fragrance community. I thought that was ingenious. Anooj is the best. I agree.
Can I show you guys something interesting? You guys are going to get a kick out of this. It's a little bit of a tragic story, but it's still, you guys are going to like this, okay? So years ago, one of my old Chanel account reps, she was moving on to do something else with her life. And, we got along really well. So before she left, she gifted me some stuff, some really good stuff. One of which, unfortunately, wasn't packed or stored properly, but it was an 80s vintage gardenia.
Oh, wow.
In a pure perfume, a full 1 ounce, right? This 1980s bottle. So unfortunately, what happened though was, look at that box. How beautiful is that? Just classic. But what happened was, you know, these old school pure perfumes, they're laced with that twine.
Oh,
It was loose. It became loose.
Oh.
So over the look at that dehydration there, man. Look at that.
Holy crap.
But I'm telling you, if you ever wanted to smell gardenia, this is I've kept it like this on purpose.
Look at that.
Rinse it out with some perfumer's alcohol. You'll be able to.
I don't want to. I purposely keep it like this. It amuses me.
Yeah.
It amuses me.
That's amazing, though. You know, just the way that it does evaporate, and it's just it turns.
What a punch to the face! It's so cool. It's just something I thought you guys would enjoy to see. Sorry.
I have discovered bottles similar to that, where it's just you open the box and it is just completely dehydrated, sticky. Like, that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Have any of you heard of Chantecaille?
Pardon?
Chantecaille?
Chantecaille.
I was doing some sniffing today after work. I went to the department store and I ran across this brand called
Chantecaille. Yeah. I saw that.
Pretty good. These are pretty interesting. You know, after smelling those Versace, where I was just like, oh, get them away from me.
Yeah.
I ran into the Chantecaille. I'm like, oh, I've never heard of this brand. The lady said they're about 20 years old. They do makeup and cosmetics and stuff like that. And I was like, oh wow, these are pretty good. These are pretty impressive. And they don't have a whole huge massive selection of perfumes. They had like 8 to 10. The majority of them were marketed towards women, and they had 2 for men. One was a vetiver and one was an oud, which I thought, this is not bad for something called oud, you know? It's not like as horrible as you would imagine.
Don't the caps have sort of like they kind of look like a disco ball, like a crystal disco ball?
Yes. Yeah. And Terra, I agree with Terra. Calamantan and Vetiver were the 2 of my favorites that I kind of ran quickly across them. And I thought the Vetiver for women, I really liked. And it was just kind of this dry vegetal vetiver that reminded me of Guerlain's, like very much in that territory.
Perhaps it's a house to explore. I have seen bottles of it come up now and again.
Calamantan was a nice amber, nice golden patchouli amber.
So, Adam, what are some discoveries that you've made recently? You have some picks to share with us?
Some picks to share,
or some pans. I like the pans too. You know, it doesn't need to be things that you were pleased with. Maybe things that you were a little put off. That works too.
Okay. Well, when you put it that way, I did have one thing that was not what I hoped it would be. I don't want to pan it because I think it's worthy of discovery for people who really like vetiver. But Parfum d'Empire is releasing something new soon. And again, just to qualify this, if you really enjoy vetiver, I think you'll enjoy it. It's a great vetiver fragrance. But to me, that was also its weakness, because while I do enjoy vetiver, I felt like it wasn't as complex as anything else in the line is, and not what I kind of expect from Parfum d'Empire. So take that with a grain of salt and take it for what you will. But I was a little saddened by Parfum d'Empire's upcoming new fragrance. But if you like vetiver, you must smell it, because it's a great, straightforward, no nonsense vetiver.
And that's a vetiver Bourbon from the type of vetiver from Madagascar, if I'm not mistaken.
So I will say it's like one of those perfumes that because there's not really much else going on in it. It does one thing. It just does that thing particularly well. So again, I don't want to make it sound like it was like too much of a pan when it's not, but I was a little disappointed because it's just not what I expect from that house. But on the other hand, I wanted to throw something a little bit more exciting to me out there. I'm working on a roundup of tea scents and just sort of touring the different types of tea and how they're used in perfume. And a couple of things have jumped out at me recently. One of them new, one of them not. Two very similarly smoky black tea with other things going on that I really enjoyed. Indigo Smoke from Arquiste being one of them.
Yeah, I just read about that recently. I'm really intrigued with that whole concept.
Really enjoy it. I think those who like the idea of like black tea and its tannins and its fruity aspects without going too powdery or unknown like will really enjoy that one. And then it's sort of like if you like that, then you'll really like Pierre Guillaume perfume that's a bit older. Well, now that I mention it, of course, it just slips my mind the title of it. I'll look it up in a minute, but there's another sort of black tea scent out there that I heartily recommend, and I'm trying to fill the time as I frantically go to go to a website to find it, but that's okay. I'll bring it up when I
Have you
remember
tried Neroli Out Renoir from Guerlain's private line for tea?
No, but that's a good one. I've heard about that one before, and I didn't think to include it in my roundup. So
That's
thank
a
you
nice
for saying
smoky tea with oud in the
that. Oh, okay. So Cashmerean.
It's just really a smoke accord that goes. It goes really well with that tea.
Yeah.
Well, I got
sorry,
it.
go ahead.
It's a Noir Okume from Pierre Guillaume.
Okay.
My memory is shot, but it's a oolong tea, kind of funky, a little musky. It's got a very beautiful myrrh accord in it. And we were talking about orris earlier and how it can be used very deftly. And I think orris is sort of what makes this one a very successful perfume as well. But really interesting body and kind of an oily quality to it that I really enjoy.
I like tea for two for tea scents, but it's almost unfair to it's just so heavy to classify it as a tea scent because everything I know about tea scents are very light and airy and whimsical, and tea for two really hits, right?
It does does hit, especially at the beginning, and that just so happens to be the first tea scent that I featured because I'm doing a tea week
now,
on
I decided
Instagram
not
this
to
week. So.
Include this one in my roundup because isn't it technically discontinued?
I think it is. And what's amazing is I was looking at the L'Artisan website, and Bois Farine is still in production. Like Bois Farine was never a huge seller, and I'm just surprised that that's still in production. And Tea for Two, which was very popular, was discontinued. Maybe there's some other reason behind it besides sales. But yeah, that was the first one that I featured this week.
Bois Farine is one of the oddest smelling perfumes I've come across. It just smells like fried dough, like greasy fried dough.
It smells just like all different kinds of bready and crackers and like peanut butter on cracker. Like peanut. There's a point where it smells like peanut butter on saltines, and it smells like oatmeal, and I've debated time and again, like, I don't know, do I like this enough that I want to have a whole bottle of it to add to my enormous collection? And I just never got around to it. Even though it's, I love Jean-Claude Elena,
it's the most bizarre thing he's done.
It is totally, but it's just amazing because they're still making that one. And I know for certain that was not a big seller. So I don't get it. Like Tea for Two, everybody was talking about Tea for Two for years. I mean, it was around for 22 years. Like, it's just kind of odd. I featured that one on Monday for Tea Week. And then I did Bulgari, the Haute Noir, which is another one of those, which, uses oud to kind of bring out some of the qualities of tea in the dry down. So I'm going to surprise people the next 3 days, but it's just such a coincidence, Adam, that I'm doing a tea-themed week. Let me know if you need help. Or
I will always ask for help. Perfume Temple, I did want to say you were asking about a Lapsang Souchong fragrance. Technically, Indigo Smoke, it lists Lapsang Souchong as a note, but I would actually, if I were you, if you're looking for something that's actually kind of smoky, I would actually go for the Pierre Guillaume as well. I maybe try both, see which one you like better. But if you're in the market for something a little bit like smoked tea, the Pierre Guillaume Noir Okume it accomplishes that. It has a note of Choya Laban, which is a smoked resin note, and it is stunning. I really recommend it.
That's some cool stuff. Choya Loban. There's 3 of them that I have. I have the Choya Nak, which is bizarre. It's like roasted seashells. Like,
It's like an alien note. You don't see it very often because I think it's really hard to use.
It's really hard to use. Like, a tiny amount of that can completely like destroy composition. You have to dilute that kind of stuff. But I love Choy Lava. Now, I know one of them that I have is distilled with an aged sandalwood. Another one's distilled with like a frankincense. Choya Ral. I have Choya Ral, Choya Loban, and Choya Nak. Fascinating stuff. I did have a question here. Can you corner the guest and inquire when Les Abstraits #2 launches?
Are you asking me?
I think they're asking you, but I guess we're all asking
honestly,
you now.
Like I've spoken with a couple of people in the last week or so, and I haven't really quite made up my mind. I feel like I'm in no rush, and when the time is right, I'm just going to say, here we go. We're ready. But there's no plan. There's no schedule. There's no itinerary. There's nothing that, like, I'm on my own here. I don't need to meet any corporate deadlines, right? So the reception for the first perfume has been amazing. You know, a month and a half in, it's been really well. So I don't want to burden people with too many releases at once. I don't want to be too quick, but when the time is right, I'll know it here, you know, and I'll just say, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, you don't want to cause nose fatigue.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Getting back to the previous point. Yeah. Pace yourself. I think that's wise.
Yeah.
You know, build the suspense. Do exactly what other brands are not doing.
Yep.
I was thinking about this in many different ways. It's even just being a personality or a presence, like, build the momentum. Build the momentum when you're doing content. Build the momentum when you're releasing a brand or a product. Let's reverse some of the effects of this, like immediate gratification. I think that's what we all are getting fatigued, and we want to slow down that treadmill. So I think that it's very smart if you give it some time and let the Deluric skis sort of sink in and really experience it and savor that.
Just enjoy it, because this is gonna pass so fast. It's before you know it, it's gonna pass, and I want to enjoy this, and it's been a great experience. So I'm gonna take my time.
There's something to be said about anticipation in fragrance.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember, growing up, or when I was younger, when launches were so much further apart, sometimes years apart. So when a big brand the news came out, your distributor or the sales rep would tell you, guess what? Next fall, there's going to be a new launch. It was a big deal. Because you hadn't seen something by Nina Ricci in years. And then when something new was launched, you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be awesome. Now it's just like, ho hum. What was last? What's next week?
Right. Another one? Oh,
yeah.
It was just the other day that they had a new one.
They're just falling out of the sky. I don't know. This is just me. I sound like an angry old man. Like, back in my day, there was no fire type of shit, but I can't help it.
You deserve an inside scoop.
Yeah, I know. It's been great. I talked to Antoine and Remy, quite often. Somebody had sent a message that I shared on Instagram, and they had called Antoine like Christopher Lee, and I thought, it's just a typo, but how can anybody buying my fragrance not know Antoine Lee? Like, it all comes with kind of the aura. And in talking with Antoine Lee, he's like, do you know who Christopher Lee is? And I was like, no. He's like, that's the original Dracula. Like, he's referring to me as Dracula. And he took that as a massive compliment. Right?
I love it.
The fragrance world kind of sees him as this misfit of perfumers, and Dracula fits right into that.
Yeah. That is totally like, there's some Dracula vibes going on with that, with Le Deluric skis. I like those Dracula type fragrances. I like that. I like the dark and deep and solemn fragrances. You know, you tap into that aspect of yourself. And some people might think, well, you know, that's depressing, but I think it's actually cathartic. It kind of helps you kind of like open up to the light when you take in these more melancholy or gothic kind of fragrances.
Yeah.
So yeah. Antoine Lee is very talented, very, very talented. I got really acquainted with his works with Les Indémodables and Eris Parfums, and when I've heard that you were partnering with him, you had him as a perfumer. I was like, wow. I was just I was really thrilled for you. So
Thank you.
Perfumer. Yeah.
And it all just happened by fluke, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea. That was the hardest part. That was one of the hardest parts, is finding a perfumer to connect with. And I thought originally that it had to be one of the big flavoring houses, but they have no interest in small brands, you know. They want $1 million accounts. They don't want pretty much a nobody. They want, you know, the big Givenchy's and Dior's and
yeah, they want the big bucks, no whammies, big bucks.
Right.
They're lost. That's what I'll say.
Oh yeah, of course. Lily, I would love to do a Gothic week. I would love to do like so I do weeks on Instagram. I've been doing them, you know, most weeks. Actually, next week it's just going to be like a wild card. Occasionally, I'm sick of doing the theme. I'll just like throw on different ones every day. But I could do that, or actually, I'm going to start doing top 10s. Yeah, I'm going to do top 10s on YouTube. I gave into it.
You can.
I'm going to do a top 10.
I don't think the top 10 is defunct. I think the top 10 of the same list is defunct, right? If you have like a top 10, but you are coming up with an interesting category, I'll watch that all day.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That's great. But when it's the same thing over and over again, people, like, you lose interest.
Yeah.
You lose interest.
I mean, you could do, I think notes never go out of style, but I think that, you know, certain themes are really overdone. And I love the idea of doing, like, there was one what I wanted to do, like, liturgical scents, like scents
I love that theme.
You know,
and you have a very special place here. Like, you have a very unique channel and outtake on perfume. So you can do something that probably hasn't been done before in a set of top 10 lists. I'm sure you can come up with something interesting and creative.
I'll see where I go with that
liturgical idea. I love churchy, incensey, smoky perfumes.
Yeah. Which is a little different from Gothic. I mean, maybe it's somewhat adjacent, but it's not exactly the same thing. I could still do a Gothic, top 10 Gothic, and a top 10 liturgical. Yeah, totally.
Bewitching perfume.
Bewitching.
The beauty is that you can just do whatever you want and express yourself, right? And that's, you know, you do what you want to do.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
That's the thing, you know. There's so much that you can do, and I try to encourage new people, like, break the mold, like, go against the grain of what everybody else is doing. Just do it your own way, like.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't
music,
box yourself in. Don't put yourself in a box.
Even with, like, music, like, I love, like, half the reason why I enjoy putting together a video is just what music I can choose. And I love that there's so much music you can actually use on YouTube that doesn't need to be public domain and the same crap that everybody else is using. Like, they allow you just see if it clears that. And then you have unique music. It's like, there's that, you know, the imagery, the editing. You don't have to overdo it. Just make it, like, I like mine to be kind of lo-fi. Like, I like making my videos sort of like as if you were watching, like, old public television programs. Like, I just like that aesthetic, you know. And it's easier to make those than some of the, you know, fancy, you know, quick cut editing. So yeah.
A couple of people have suggested a Halloween scents special, and listen, if you do that, please count me in, because not only do I have a few fragrances that I would take as serious picks for this occasion, I also have a couple of fragrances that literally scare me. In a negative way, so I would love to take part in that.
Can you tell us at least one of these that scares you? I love the idea of fragrance actually scaring someone.
I mean, quite literally, I would say, oh goodness, what is you can find it at any mall. The blue bottle with like the face on it. I'm so sorry. I try to block it out from my memory because every single time I've tested it in a department store, I get an instant migraine. So it literally does scare me. It's Versace Eros. Sorry.
Oh God.
That one
Yeah.
really scares me.
Favorite gym perfume.
Oh, don't even. It brings me back to some dark days in a Planet Fitness. Please. It does.
Yeah, that is pretty horrifying. Yeah, that one is migraine inducing,
I know,
which to
it's
me is
popular, I'm
horrifying.
sorry. It gets me. It gets me in like the back of my throat.
I love just giving honest, straightforward opinions on certain fragrances. Like it's okay, and that's cathartic too, and it also, we're not responsible for other people's emotions. So if they are emotionally or personally affected by something that we're not happy with, it's not our responsibility.
Yeah.
And anyhow.
Good call, Margie. And I have to agree.
That's
with
fair
you.
enough, Margie. Yeah.
I am not a Halloween person whatsoever. I can't remember ever getting dressed for Halloween. It's like one of those. I'm just not like one of those guys that looks forward to Halloween.
I don't really dress up that much. I don't know. Maybe I should. I've never been a like dress up in costume kind of person. Not since I got free candy out of it. You know, if I get some free candy, maybe I'll change my mind. But nobody's giving me, my old ass free candy. And I'm angered by people with overblown Halloween decorations all over their house. On the 1st of November, they erect a huge Santa. I see red. I mean, people skip like that whole month. Like, I know Thanksgiving, people want to redefine it and give it a new name and all this stuff. And there's a lot of, there's a lot. It's really problematic and stuff. But like, I like the tradition of like having that holiday in between, so that we're not getting right into the Christmas season. And now it's not even holiday. It's not even Halloween, and we're thinking about Christmas holiday gate. I know, like this is the excitement here on my stream. This is about as juicy as it gets. it's like NPR. It's like delicious dishes from like
Holiday Gate.
That skit from SNL. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I was joking around that like my stream is like, I'm sorry, I can't deliver Bravo. I'll deliver PBS.
No, it's great. I'm really glad that you've made the transition from Instagram. This for me is much easier to watch. I found Instagram lives a little bit hard to watch.
Yeah.
I really struggled with it, and I think this is just a much better platform for streaming service.
Yeah, it's much more comfortable. There is a certain, it doesn't necessarily need to be, but you have much more of a captive audience, I think, and there is a little bit more formality. It depends upon how much you hold that together. But I think that it's just a lot more accessible and easier for people to digest than looking at Instagram, like looking at your phone and watching a live. Yeah, I like this. This is a good progression. So, what?
One interesting thing with the Instagram is who's in there watching with you, whether they comment or not. And I don't know if YouTube will ever introduce. I don't know if it's good or bad, actually, but.
Oh, true, because you can't actually see. Yeah, that is true.
You can see whenever somebody enters the viewing zone.
Right, you'll see like this
on Instagram.
This particular Instagram user has entered. Whereas here, I don't even think you have to. I mean, you certainly don't need a YouTube channel, but you don't see any handle or name. It's just you got your count, which we happen to be still at 40 viewers, which is spectacular. We've been doing this for over 2 hours, and this has been really great. We're going to run probably until about 9:20. We'll do a backstage if anybody's interested, but let's see.
I ask Adam a question?
Absolutely.
So, Adam, you're a writer with Fragrantica.
Yes, writer there. Also do a lot of the Fragrantica Talks video podcast episodes there.
So can you kind of explain to us how that works? So as somebody that reviews fragrance, I literally pick up a perfume and I start talking. It's my own perfume. It doesn't necessarily need to be sent to me. Now, when you're writing for Fragrantica, do they ask you to write about a certain piece? Do they send you the perfume? Or do you have the freedom to talk about whatever you like?
Yeah, I'd say more so the latter. There are different. It's an international team of people. It's quite a large team of people on the site, and they all have their own kind of specialties. And some of them do more so work for translation into the Fragrantica sites in other languages. But so everybody's role is a little bit different. But mine, I definitely am just sort of a kind of like a freelance writer would be. Really, I get to write about what I want to write about. I've never felt restricted with that. And yeah, I kind of just come up with stories on my own. Now, when I first started there, I did kind of lean on like some of the editors to say, like, is there something that you think I should cover? But that quickly fell out, and I kind of just got sort of the confidence to do my own kind of work. So yeah, I'd say there's no real restriction there. And generally speaking, they encourage people to kind of bring their own ideas.
Okay.
Very nice.
Cool.
So, Eugene, any other discoveries beside what's the name of the other house, the Shantake? What was it, Shantake?
No, I can't remember. It was Chantecaille, I think it was.
Shantake.
Not really. You know, I've smelt the two new Guerlain Ouds. They're like a no for me. Like there's just zero there. I don't know. I feel like Dior and Guerlain are in a lot of trouble with Vasset and Francis Courdion. Both, they're going to be playing kamikazes, and they're going to be driving both those brands into the ground. You know, they're probably competing to see who can make a bigger bonus at Christmas time from Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. So I don't have a lot of high hopes there. As far as new stuff, I tried the new Frederic Moll. Thought it was
Uncut
Gem. Okay, it didn't really. I wanted more. You know, I expected more. I'll definitely revisit it. You know,
it's been panned. Talk about a pan. There have been so many negative reviews on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see it coming. I didn't think that it would get such an unfavorable response. Especially considering there was a lot of favorable responses to like Synthetic Jungle and the like. Synthetic Jungle, that was the last one, right?
I bought Synthetic Jungle retail on the spot when I smelled it.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know, when I smelled Uncut, I was like, oh damn! It's just like so underwhelming. And for 620 Canadian dollars, I was like, oh no, my money's staying in my pocket, dude. You know,
apparently, right? So there you go. I said apparently it's not selling very well, so there you go.
So you have the inside. So Uncut Gem is not flying off the shelves. Well, how did Synthetic Jungle do? I mean, was that?
I can't imagine it's a big seller because
it's more green than what mainstream perfume. It's wonderfully. I mean, I love green scent, so naturally,
bitter, lily of the valley, galbanum. It's just like it's not what the typical consumer wants. But again, Frederic Moll isn't geared for the typical consumer. Somebody that wants a Frederic Moll, they're coming there specifically for the brand. You don't just kind of walk upon the brand and go, "Oh my god, I love these!" Right?
Yeah,
they're usually for people that are deeper into the fragrance hobby.
To me, that whole brand is quintessential niche. When we think of the definition of niche, like a niche of fragrance enthusiasts who really love fragrance for the art of it, that's what Frederic Moll is. So when I read so much about Uncut Gem seeming so much more, mainstream, it almost kind of, I don't know. I mean, is that what you get from it? Is this just more kind of like an attempt to kind of attract an audience that would not normally gravitate to Frederick Mall? What do you think was the reasoning behind having that kind of release?
Yeah, I think you're right. It might be put out there for people that have a more appealing taste, but those sort of people don't usually go, like we were talking, to the Frederick Mall counter.
Right.
You're going to find them at the Creed counter or the Parfum de Marly counter or Tom Ford.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like
what Frederick Mall is vastly different than most of those brands.
Right. Creed never was like a Frederick Mall. Creed was always a luxury brand. They weren't really trying to be like a fragrance brand for fragrance lovers, but a fragrance brand to appeal to people who want a quality fragrance at a higher price point. Even though I loved some of those older releases that they had that they discontinued, they were so dated, but I love dated fragrances. And of course, they chopped all of those, gone, all of them. And that's what I loved about them. And then, pretty much the only ones that are still in existence, I don't even know if it's still in production, but Royal Mayfair is the only one that kind of reminds me of the old guard Creed with like the gray caps. They just smell like very much like old world style, but that's not the direction that Creed I think would ever go in.
You mean from the 1800s?
Yeah, like the bizarre compositions like acier aluminium, the strange, their strange variation on the Kouros theme with orange spice, things like original Tabarome and all that stuff. Like, yeah, we won't see anything like that coming from that house. Definitely, those days are long gone. The lineage going back hundreds and hundreds of years. Yes. That's right. I'm not even paying attention to what Creed does anymore. Have they even had any recent releases? Like, what is even going on with that house?
That house has just vomited all over itself for years now, with just the multiplying and it's really cringeworthy. It's just it makes me uncomfortable to think what it was. Green Irish Tweed, years and years ago. Just forget about any other fragrance. I'll just talk about just Green Irish Tweed. They had not just the fragrance, but the ancillary products that they had were so nice, and there was so much thought that went into it. And they had a shaving soap, right? And a bowl. An old-fashioned shaving soap in a bowl. Their aftershave balm was on some high-quality, next-level shit that you couldn't compare. That was better than most fragrances. And then just after that, just to see what happened with that brand, just ugh. Sorry.
It's all right. It's just such a weird story, and it's so anticlimactic now. They were bought out by some huge hedge fund or some crap I
could never get into the brand myself. I just never really cared.
I used to have a few of their fragrances. I used to wear Bois de Portugal and Green Valley and Original Vetiver. That was back when very early. What was that? It sounded like I don't know if somebody might have some feedback or maybe another browser open. Do you hear sort of a bit of feedback? You do, Adam?
Is it me?
Mute yourself for a second. Let's see if it might be. It is Anooj.
It's the furnace in my warehouse here. I'll turn the heating down.
Okay.
Margie asked
about
H24.
Have y'all smelled
H24 is?
Oh, one at a time. Sorry. So, Adam, what did you say?
Margie had asked, panel, can you explain what the heck H24 is? And that's a difficult question to answer too.
H24 is a sport cologne. That's what it is. A very fresh sport cologne.
It's like a modern aromatic fougere, but it's kind of it feels like an attempt at moving into an innovative direction, but like you said, Eugene, it just feels sporty and fresh.
It's a big minty balsam is what it is. It's like wearing aloe vera, the most uninteresting aloe vera.
I couldn't agree more on the uninteresting part,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I really wanted to like it, and that top is really cool, really interesting top notes, but to me, the base of H24 is where it kind of goes right back to any scent you could get marketed towards men in the last 20 years. That's
Listen,
just where they
it's
lose
not
me.
for me, but if my 17-year-old wants to wear it, I say yes, go ahead.
There are certainly more offensive things that your 17-year-old could
great
find.
on my 17 or 18-year-old, and I don't mind smelling it on him, but I don't want to invest 8 or 10 hours in wearing it. Smells great. There's moments where I'm like, next.
An absolute snooze fest. Like I saw that there was a Narcissus note, and it didn't deliver. No, Narcissus my ass. Like, you want to smell Narcissus? You smell like Tabac Taboo from Parfums d'Empire. That's like
now
horsey.
To me, it's mint and balsam and very rubbery. Little bit incense, sweet, kind of like a Jolly Rancher, sweet, minty Jolly Rancher. What I think of the EDP, I thought it was a little bit more leathery, a little bit more mossy. I wouldn't call it moss, but it felt more like comparing it side to side with the EDT. I felt it was a little bit heftier, maybe more vegetal, but pretty much more of the same. It wasn't a complete, like, different direction.
Yeah, it didn't really do anything like Terre de Mez did. Like, Terre de Mez was really a new direction. Like that whole the feel of it is so unique.
I like the Terre line, even like the freshies, even the one that Nigel did. I think it's again, I wouldn't wear this. I wouldn't spend 8 to 10 hours wearing this to work or throughout my day, but to throw it in my gym bag or to go drop something off at the post office, I think it's great for that sort of thing.
You might call it a dumb reach.
Sure,
dumb reach.
You want to use that term. I loved Eau Fraiche, the Jean-Claude Elena. I love that. That to me was masterful. Dirty oranges and spices, right? Vetiver, gorgeous. That would entertain me all day.
And H24 reminds me of something Quentin Bisch, the niche Bisch, would do. I like a couple of things that he did for Etalib d'Orange. I don't know if I would compare H24 with his stuff, but that's all right. That's okay. You're entitled. Margie says, I did not like it after smelling it twice out of the bottle and on strips. Doesn't feel like putting it on my skin.
I mean,
apparently you're not
modern designers. It's not meant to appeal to enthusiasts.
Yeah.
It's meant to appeal to people that are coming off of Axe. It's one step above Axe at 10 times the price.
Yeah.
Right? Kids from high school coming off of Axe body spray are now moving into something more interesting. And it's great for that sort of thing. But I mean, wear this to experience something creative. It's not gonna capture your attention. It's not horrible by any means. I mean, it's pleasant, but it smells like the Macy's counter smells like.
I didn't really care to even explore it any further after I smelled it at Nordstrom. I was like, oh, this is just like a big nothing burger. That's a disappointment. And I was so excited for like a new Hermes, but I was like, I know what they're doing here, and good for them. It's just, I don't care. I don't care enough about it, really. No full bottle. No, I didn't even bring a sample home. Somebody said here, Empty Sense, I'd rather get Axe. Yeah, it's cheaper for sure. So time is now 9:22, and I am going to revisit my first impressions one more time before we wrap things up. And we're going to probably say toodaloo for the evening or wherever time you are watching this. So Unum, Ennui Noir. I have to give this another wear. This is one where I'm undecided. I was much more impressed with its opening, and now the dry down is a little eluding. It's eluding me. I don't. I'm not even going to bother with Desert Suave. And then 1828. This is the winner. 1828 by Histoire de Parfum. That's the winner for tonight. And that is one where I'm going to wear a few times, and I may just possibly go full bottle on it. We'll have to see about it. I'll keep you posted. So we're.
I don't know what you had in mind for closing, and I don't want to step on your toes there.
Oh, no. Close it. It's much more free form at the end. It's structured, and then it just kind of turns into free form.
Maybe something that we could do that could be interesting is like if everybody would go around and just say one fragrance that they're enjoying lately, whether it's a new thing or not. I'd just be curious to know.
Okay. We'll start with Eugene.
With me? Sure. And I wore this yesterday, and I think I bought this in the last year or so. And this is Jean-Claude Elena's take on Sandalwood, Santal Massoya. And I really like this. This is milky, lactonic, coming from fig and coconut, and it's got that kind of that dillish green pickly thing, but it's also a very woody fragrance. And this, to me, kind of captures just a single moment where you're sitting under a shaded tree, like during a hot day, and you get that breeze of wind, that nice breeze of refreshing wind, and that's where this takes me. Really lovely. I love it. It has that nice contrast of woodiness and freshness. Like, and it's light enough where I was talking to Rich about this. You can put on 100 sprays of this, and it wouldn't make a difference if you were wearing 5 or 100. You're not going to offend somebody. You can wear it to the gym. You can wear this to a wedding, and it would be just as fantastic.
It has an interesting sillage. Like a lot of people think that it's really quiet, but it has these wafts. Like when you think that it's left you, it comes back, and you're like, wait, what a second. Yeah. Wait a second. Yeah.
It's that ghostly presence.
It is very ghostly.
It's just, again, that it's whimsical. It dances and flutters and almost like a weightless ballerina, just kind of pirouette, and then it disappears for a bit. And then you kind of get up and you exert some energy and you're like, oh, there she is.
Anooj, do you have one? I know that you do. Oh, share. Please do share.
I'm not a big fragrance wearer, as you guys know.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been not all the time, but more of this.
What is that?
I had no idea this was happening. Okay.
Ooh, what is Le Pretty Bottle?
Man, there's a lot of juice missing from there, bro.
Yeah.
So
it's becoming a signature scent.
I never ever thought in my life that I would love a rose fragrance. I mean, not pure rose, but just that rose in it, that Bulgarian rose is just growing on me. There's just something about it. And I just love the, I always talk about when fragrance, and you guys are probably all the same. We talk about fragrance associated with memories and just the whole experience. This is doing that for me in a current time, rather than when I was spraying something like Santos, which took me to my childhood. This is to me, and now this, when I smell this and I wear this, it's my friendship and my brotherhood with Eugene. That's what it does for me, and his hard work and his sacrifice and his pain, and I get all of that, and this is a big deal for me. So,
thank you so much. I love you, Anooj.
Yeah, and I love the cat.
That's great, Adam. Which one is yours? Share with us.
Well, I do. I want to keep those feel-good feelings going for a second, because I didn't even realize when I stepped on the stream, Eugene, that you were a part of that brand, and I've heard so much buzz about it. So I wanted just to say I'm excited to check it out. And then Anooj, I didn't know that you were part. Well, I did know that you were part of Enchante, but I do want to tell you though, I'm about to just sort of blind order Aura by Giacomo, because that's something I've been so curious about for a long time, and you have it on there for a song, so thank you. So my pick was a newer perfume called Chypre Isli, ISLI, from Maison and Sens. This is really cool. I wanted to choose something that, just to kind of give a nod to like the Frenchness of our discussion tonight. I spend a lot of time writing about fragrances that are a little less French-like, and this is one in that kind of classical Chypre style that really impressed me lately. Somebody on Fragrantica had referred to it as a perfume of like oily, patchouli, greasy flowers, and that's a very good way to describe it. And it's delightful. So, Chypre Isli from Maison and Sens.
Mm. Let me grab my bottle, if you don't mind. I'm going to get the bottle and I'll chat about mine.
The party starts now. He's gone.
All right, let's get him demonetized. Oh, yeah, speaking about monetization, I don't think JJ's channel is monetized. However, he does have a buy him a coffee if you want to support the channel. So
Oh yeah, drop that link, man. JJ, drop
shout out
that.
to JJ's channel. Please be kind and support the channel. I mean, JJ's investing a lot of his time to entertain people, so, and he's putting in a lot of hard work. So,
And
give him
are
a
you
little
not
tip.
entertained?
Hit that bell. Give him a little tip.
What am I missing here? I had to adjust my mic. Something happened with my mic.
What happened there?
Drop the link, JJ. It feels good to give.
Buy me a coffee thing.
Can you? Oh, the buy me a coffee. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, now
Yeah.
Okay. I had some issues. Oh yes, the buy me a coffee link. Yes.
drop that link.
Yeah.
I have a tough time promoting that stuff. Like I feel
That's
kind
what
of
you're
weird,
not.
like
We're promoting it for
We're
you.
doing it for you. We're doing it for you. You
The
don't.
crowd has demanded it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a buy me a coffee because I'm not yet monetized. I'll share the link. No pressure. But I do hope to expand this brand and this concept and then get a paid subscription and do lots of cool stuff with it. So if you do want to support me, here is buymeacoffee.com. There's the website.
There you go. How do you take your coffee? You got to tell us how you take your coffee.
I take my coffee with sugar or stevia if it's available, to fewer calories, and some milk. I like it just like that.
Good.
So the one that I've been enjoying is an Eldo, Etat d'Orange. It is Ronald Moret Un Amorette. This is the one that I have been just it. So I'll do the notes breakdown because that just seems to be the thing to do. I got to talk about what's in it. This uses Akagala wood. So Akagala wood, a lot of people think that. Hold on. Sorry about that. Can you hear me still? I had some issues with the sound again. I don't know what's going on. So Akagala wood is actually a fractionation of patchouli, and it's used in a pretty considerable amount in this particular fragrance. And then there's also orange blossom, a few other notes. But what this smells like to me is, it smells like an old wooden interior, like an old wooden church or an old wooden theater or library, including just sort of the dustiness and the mustiness of it. But it's still really wearable. So this is my favorite new discovery, Ronald Moret Un Amorette, and I'll write that in the chat. I think the reason why I got confused is all three of you are muted, and I was used to hearing the ambient sound. I'm like, where did the ambient sound go? Unmute yourselves in chat. Fresh fractioning. I don't know what this means, but there you go. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put the name of this in here because it's a rather long name. Amorette. Eldo. There you go. There you go, folks. That's the name. Nope, I didn't spell it right. Ronald Moret. There. Okay. Gucci Pour On 1 smells like an old church with incense. I can see that, yeah. And then, well, that was Michel Almerac, if I'm not mistaken, who composed that one. And then he did Bentley Ferment Absolute, which smells similar to it. And I get that kind of vibe from it as well. So, where did Eugene go? We have to do our closing statements. We have to, close up shop for the day. Can you guys get yourself off of mute, or did I force you guys to mute?
No, I still wasn't sure about the feedback. I turned my furnace off, so I don't know if it's still there. But
Okay. I was like, somebody else take over. I can't continue.
I just work remote, and so I'm just like in the habit of always muting myself when I'm not speaking.
Oh, no, that makes sense. It's sort of like when you're on Zoom, I'm muted 90% of the time unless I'm forced to present something. So
it's sort of a bad habit, really, but
No, it's fine. Without the dirty, rooty parts of Patch.
Yeah, I mean, tons of scents. Actually, I tried the Shabbat Patchouli 1973 today, and I thought that it was quite a clean patchouli. So I'd recommend that if you're looking for a non-dirty patchouli.
Yeah, I think
he's certainly not the only.
I think that what he's asking about is whether Akagala wood is without the dirty, rooty.
Oh, right.
I think Akagala wood actually takes some of the aspects of dirty, rooty from patchouli, and then kind of like it's kind of like a distillation of that. That's what's kind of interesting about it. A lot of people think it's like a woody amber. It isn't a woody amber. It's not a synthetic. It's actually like a fractionation of patchouli, and it's proprietary. It's not available commercially. Like you know, Adam, like when it's like a captive, you still can't purchase it if you're like an independent perfumer. So I don't know what it smells like in isolation, but that's what it's supposed to be. So, well, the time is now 9:35. If you guys want to stick around a little bit for the backstage action, we'll have a lot of gossip and drama to talk about.
Yeah, hang on. Can Adam give us some of the results of his favorite patchoulis, or is he going to make us wait for the article to be released?
Let's see.
Patchoulis? Oh, okay. Well, actually, Thundra gets a nod from Perfume Aroma in the article. I'm not done with it yet, though, so I shouldn't quite, let it all out right now. But oh man, there are too many to choose from. I'm gonna have to finish it. I'm gonna have to keep you in suspense. I apologize.
Okay, fair enough.
But I will expect Thunder to be there.
Oh, it'll get a nod. Yeah, for sure. I really like that one, so I'm glad that we got the chance to chat about it for a moment tonight.
Yeah, totally. And not many people know about it, and those who do, it's. I would have to say it is a bit polarizing, but people need to at least sample it. It's definitely one of my favorite patchoulis, most certainly. So the time is now 9:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are now closing Effluvium episode 5. Eugene, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting Adam and being on with Anooj and seeing the chat. So I had a great time. Thanks, everybody.
And Anooj, thank you for accepting my invitation and joining us in the conversation as well. Always a pleasure.
Me, great to meet you, Adam. I love you. I got to take off because I got to go home. My wife has her own top 10, which is a nightly way of 10 ways I managed to piss her off. So I got to go home and discuss my top 10 with her. So
9:30.
Godspeed.
Warehouse fulfilling orders.
All right. I love all you guys. Thank you so much. This was a blast, and have a great week.
Thank you, Anooj.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you.
And Adam, thank you so much for joining me as a regular panelist. I look forward to having you in future episodes, future installments. This has been great.
Absolutely. This is a blast. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for everybody who's tuned in tonight. You've been wonderful. Great contributions, great input, great questions. It's wonderful to have all of you tuning in and making this the success that it's already becoming. So I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. All right, everyone, take care and stay safe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye now. And